Hi, Strat here with 5 reasons that you need to play Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. Reason number 1, character building is complex, yet easy to learn. I love these ability scores. They're fun to experiment with and provide tons of build variety that the leading competitive brands just can't handle. In some games, the stats are obfuscated, and whenever you change an attribute, you have to hope it does what you think it'll do because the UI doesn't show enough info. Tainted Grail has a highly detailed character sheet. Everything about your character can be found here. It's also where you level up. This is what RPGs need. Clear, concise rules and stats. No ambiguity. No need to go to a wiki and look up complicated formulas like y plus x times 2 equals, I don't know, do I look like Einstein? When you increase an attribute, the derived stat updates so you can see the result before confirming. You get a picture of what is, what will be, and what could be. So investing in an attribute is a worry-free job, made even easier by a naming convention that communicates precisely what a stat does. I know this is just the UI, but I love and appreciate how it's laid out. For something meatier, let's talk about the impact of each attribute. Strength augments melee damage, max stamina, and reduces your equip load penalty. Strength affects how quickly enemies die and how many actions you can perform and how fast you move fully armored. What if that fighter invests in perception? Crits happen more, do more damage, and increase the damage ranged weapons do. Attributes change the way you play and how you equip yourself because the attributes change how the game mechanics function. My favorite stat is practicality, which increases the chance you'll make better items and how much you sell those items for. It's the only stat that makes every form of damage you do less expensive, so it's a crafting attribute worth investing in. This system is impressive in its complexity, but the customization doesn't stop there. We still gotta talk about skill trees. Skill trees function the same way as in Skyrim, except there aren't skill level requirements holding you back. You can be a thief that uses magic, a fighter that uses a bow for sneak attacks, a heavy armored mage, a druid who summons wolves, or a ranger who summons the skeletal remains of his father, his mother, and his little brother. You can be strength oriented but critical hit curious, or apply bleed on hit and aggravate that bleeding with each hit. Tainted Grail does offer flexibility, but this isn't Elder Scrolls. You'll need to narrow down your focus or your build won't be viable late game. You can mix and match and play character building by ear, but you should have a basic outline for your build to reduce frustration. The skill trees are all passive increases, and sometimes these passives grant you new status effects or conditionals that grant bonuses, such as increasing damage with each consecutive hit, or using a spell that costs less to increase the damage of a more expensive spell. The majority of your power is going to come from these trees, whereas attributes give small but targeted increases without conditions. These restrictions give weight to the decisions you make when leveling up, and it makes each level feel impactful. In the late game, your options narrow. You'll have to choose a weapon type, armor class, and playstyle, and stick with it. I can see how some might think this is too much restriction, especially when you get a neat new weapon that you want to try out, but it's the wrong type. There's going to be a lot of temptation in this game, so luckily, there's a limited respec consumable to reset all of the choices you regret making in the game, not in your actual life. Number 2, crafting is rewarding and complex. You got the basics, gathering, foraging, mining, lumbering, and fishing. Instead of hitting the E key to watch your character mine a vein or fish, in Tainted Grail, you are hitting the rock, you are chopping the wood, you are sinking the hook. Crafting allows you to cook restorative or buffing food, brew powerful healing and buffing concoctions, and handcraft unique items, arrows of all types, and powerful throwable weapons. Don't sleep on throwables because they're powerful throughout the game. Cooking may seem like it's not important, but because your health doesn't regen and potions can become limited, having food ensures you always have a way to heal and sometimes buff without using up valuable resources. And if you experiment enough, you may even unlock special potions you can't find recipes for. But wait, there's more. Food gives you a slow but substantial heal, but it's not going to save your life like a potion will, because potions heal a small amount of health instantly. But that's not all. There's recipes to find, buffs to drink, and bombs to make that function much like crackpots in Elden Ring. You can also upgrade specific stats on your gear directly, and this is where it gets interesting. Say you have this armor and you want to use it, but it's too heavy and you prefer a faster playstyle. No problem. You can reduce the weight of your gear if you have enough money and resources, and wear that fancy new armor without being weighed down by it. Then there's the upgrade system, where you can increase the stats of your gear, including ones granted by enchantment, to +1, +2, and so on, just like in Dark Souls. Many games allow you to create items, but they usually only let you make stuff that you can easily find by exploring. There are some armor sets in Tainted Grail that you can only get by crafting, and the drip is just off the charts. If you're not a mage, crafting is a useful and fun system to engage with. It feels awesome unlocking something that you couldn't get otherwise without doing the work to create it. It feels special. Then there's the crafting skill tree and the practicality attribute. Every point of practicality raises your crafting bonus by 0.10. The higher the bonus, the better your chance of making higher level gear, and it prevents you from botching a craft. When you invest in the crafting skill tree, you get bonuses like a chance to create 2 dishes for the price of 1, making the potency of the potions 50% higher, and a chance to recycle components when you craft. Practicality also increases the price you sell stuff for, and it's a significant boost, so you'll never have trouble with money, and all the items you create are of the highest quality. It's deceptively OP. Reason number 3, the gear goes hard. Do you like drip? Have you ever said the following: if I had armor like that, girls would like me? If so, then Tainted Grail has you covered. We got basic drip, flashy drip, exotic drip, and drip that says, stay away from that homeless man, he looks disturbed. The weapons and armor look like they were ripped straight out of a heavy metal magazine cover. Just look at Galahad's mace and try not to say the words awesome, rad, dope, or sick. You can't. It's impossible. If dark gothic fantasy is your kink, you love this game. Armor has sharp edges. If a piece of armor looks dangerous to wear, it belongs in the world of Tainted Grail. Aesthetics are only one side of the equation, however. It's much more important that these items do interesting things, and they absolutely do. This character has a staff. That staff increases my character's attack speed by 75%, and this is huge. Because if I invest in attack speed even more, I'll be a walking death machine, flinging fireballs faster than enemies can recover. The only problem is that mana cost increase. Mana is limited. I could try to increase my mana pool, or I can equip the robes, hood, and pants that increase my critical hit chance for spells by nearly 75% if my mana is below a certain threshold. So, not only am I a nuking god, but the lower I get on mana, the more dangerous I become. Armor and weapons have enchantments that are not just interesting or a nice boost to your power, but they have conditionals, just like the passive tree. So if you could conform to a certain style of play, you could create characters that are ridiculously powerful. How about a hammer that has a 20% chance to call down lightning on an enemy that you hit, causing an extra 120% of your total damage? If your damage is already sitting at 300%, that means you're doing 300% plus 360%. And that is just an insane amount of damage, and that's not all. If you act now, you'll also get to do that damage in a 5-meter radius around the enemy, and to top it all off, you can get it near the very start of the game. That's right! Near the start of the game! That's a surprising amount of interesting and unique weapons and armor, and in a way, reminds me a lot of games like Dark Souls, because of how you always seem to be getting something unique that makes you re-envision how your character should be built. It's itemization that excites me, and I'm willing to bet that if you give it a chance, it might just excite you too. Reason number 4, the level design is complex and fun to explore. There are games out there that design dungeons to be linear. If you follow in one direction, you'll eventually come to the end and be spit back out at the beginning. And those can be fun, but they aren't activating any brain cells. Tainted Grail has huge dungeons. Some are massive open areas with multiple twisting paths. hidden passages, and treasures to find. Sometimes the levels will have special bosses to fight, or lead to new areas that were normally inaccessible, but I never felt like I was exploring the same place over and over again the way I do with games that use a limited Lego style of dungeon design. There's dungeons, caves, underground cities, different dimensions, dream landscapes. You never feel like you've seen the same thing twice, and every dungeon, despite some using the same assets, never feel the same. They feel unique, and there's always something memorable about them. Then there's the exteriors, and this should be explained. A lot has been made of this game being like Elder Scrolls, so I need to dispel this assumption somewhat. The open world in Tainted Grail is not really an open world. In fact, Tainted Grail has more in common with Gothic 2's level design than Elder Scrolls. Each area is cordoned off and separated by acts. You cannot proceed to another act before finishing up your main mission in that area. And each act is not a massive open area where you can walk in any direction and you'll eventually find something interesting. The level design here is much tighter. Each map is a collection of smaller arenas, or to put it another way, points of interest connected by a web of pathways, mountains, cliff faces, and artificial obstacles blocking access to certain areas. Think of it like Elden Ring if Elden Ring had less empty spaces and had loading screens between zones. The areas may seem small, but they pack a lot of punch. The levels are dense, with things to discover in every corner, and because the design is so tight, it feels better to explore because you are never far away from something cool to see or do. Here's my experience with Tainted Grail's level design. I started 3 different characters, played through Act 1 with each, and in every playthrough, I managed to find new caves, new dungeons, new secret areas, new enemies to kill, new quests to do, and new gear. It's a very dense game that does a lot with a little. Reason number 5, the combat is fun as all get out. Combat, especially in the early game, can be brutal, but equally satisfying due to the active and fast-paced nature. The combat is meant for first person. Even though there is an obligatory third-person mode, it's not the best way to play this game. This combat was meant for first person, and it gives you the tools you need to feel like an 8th degree black belt and kicking ass and taking names. For melee, you get a light attack, and if you hold the attack button, you get a heavy attack. No big deal so far, all standard stuff, but everything changes depending on the weapon. If you're running and attacking, you do an attack where you leap forward and swing. If you have 2 daggers equipped, you'll do the same attack, but you'll hit with both daggers at the same time. If you have a shield, you can dash forward, hit the attack button, and interrupt your attack with a parry, a block, and if you're good with finger gymnastics, dash forward while blocking and attack to do a charging push attack with your shield, which can knock an enemy off balance. Speaking of shields, there's multiple ways to use them. You can block damage, which will negate a certain amount of damage, or you could parry an attack, which will stun the enemy, and if their stamina is low enough, stagger them for several seconds. Then you can push an enemy with your shield, and you do this in much the same way that you do in Elder Scrolls. This attack will damage the enemy's stamina and stagger them to the point of knocking them down for a few seconds, and if you do it after the enemy attacks, you're more likely to stagger them. Then there's the dash. This is like the dodge in Dark Souls. It slides you to a certain distance away from attacks depending on how heavy your equip load is. And you have limited charges before you become exhausted, and those charges come back after a short time of not using them. This is your first line of defense and is the most reliable way to avoid damage. And then you got spells, and each one is different in major ways, like a straight up fireball complete with ragdolls and a beam of light that shoots out in a ray, or just pull a Palpatine and fry your enemies with lightning. And if that weren't enough, you can summon companions, and not just a companion, but multiple companions. You can have 3 summons out at the same time by default, or you can have 4 if you invest in a summoning skill tree. And then there's a host of buffing spells like various highest damage shields, spells that drain blood from enemies or enemy corpses and heal you in return, or just blow the corpses up and all their soon-to-be departed friends with them. The combat is deep, surprisingly good for a first-person game, and I never got tired of it in the 80 or so hours I played it. If you want to try this game out, there's a demo on Steam, so you could try it before you buy it. And bye-bye!